So what this tells me is we're spending more money, but we're not getting the result that we want. Like, we're not seeing more qualified leads because we're spending more money. So now we got to look a little bit more to see, okay, what is going on here? What is happening here? And as we really started to look into the details, one of the things that we started to recognize is that the marketing company had changed the strategy of who they were targeting or who they were trying to reach. And when we recognized that, we said that, okay, all right, we got to make some changes in your strategy because you can't keep spending more money on marketing, but getting less results. So we're in that interesting time of year that I like to call championship season. And there's a lot that law firm owners can learn from championship season. The reason why I call this championship season is because there are a lot of different professional sports that are either in their playoffs or they're moving towards the championship. You have the NBA for basketball, you have hockey is the same. We've even had some really big horse races, and you also have the WNBA starting up. There are many sports right now, and also we can't forget about baseball is in high swing as well. And there are many things going on right now that are leading towards a championship. Now, here's what law firms can learn about that, is that championship teams usually are not an individual sport. They are really a team sport, which means there are so many moving parts that have to work together in order for that team to win. If you've been following any other basketball, there have been some upsets that people have seen, like when the Knicks played the Celtics early in the playoffs. Like, most people didn't expect the Knicks to win the way that they did. But if you watch the game, something that you recognize is that the Knicks actually played better together as a team than the Celtics did. And that across the board with so many different sports. And that is very true in your law firm. And when you're thinking about your law firm, one of the things to keep in mind is that a law firm also has a team. Now, a lot of times the team may not be so easy to see if you're a small or medium-sized law firm, but the team is still there. And when I talk about the team, I'm talking about the different functions within your law firm. So you have marketing, you have sales, you have legal operations, you have administrative functions, and then you also have whether it's your client support. All of these functions have to work together in order for your law firm to be successful. Now, another thing that I also notice is as unique about championship teams is that championship teams usually have a very high level of accountability for each person on the team, meaning that people are held accountable for producing results. Now, that is a very big issue that a lot of law firms face because unfortunately, we've gotten into this place where law firms aren't really measuring people based on the results that they produce. A lot of times, we're measuring people based on the activity they produce or the amount of hours they put into doing their work. But we really need to get to a place where we are measuring people and holding them accountable for the results that they produce in the job that they hold within the firm. And I know it can be very complicated, but just like a championship team, the way they measure it, you could do the same in your law firm. Because when you're looking at a championship team, the way that they measure individual performance is by looking at the stats, or in a context of a law firm, it would be looking at the KPIs. And so what you want to do is make sure that you have really good KPIs for all the functions in your business. For example, if we're looking at your marketing department, what are the KPIs that you are going to monitor to tell if your marketing department is actually achieving the results that they should be? And the same thing for your sales, same thing for your legal operations, your finance function, your general administrative, all of those functions should have very clear KPIs that they need to achieve. So I wrote a couple of notes down, so you'll see me look down at my notes, but I just want to make sure that we get through all of them. So I want to take it kind of piece by piece on it. And I want to talk about first with marketing. When it comes down to marketing, a couple of KPIs that I think that you should really monitor and really measure your marketing team on. The first one I'm going to say is we want to look at average spend. We want to see how much money is the marketing team spending, or is your marketing function spending? Like, how much are you spending each month on marketing? Most of the times when I talk to firms, they really don't have an idea. Like, I talked to a couple of firms before where I asked them, how much money are you spending on marketing? And when they told me their number, I said, okay, all right, let's go in, let's look in your financials and let's see how much you're actually spending. They were about 30% below what the actuals were. Meaning, like in this case, they thought that they were spending about 10 grand a month or $10,000 a month. They were actually spending something like $15,000 a month. And I asked, I said, hey, when did you increase your marketing budget? Or do you know, how did you go from 10 to 15? And they were just like, you know what, to be honest with you, I don't know. Like, we hired a marketing agency. And then I said, okay, all right, this may not be all bad, but let's look at some other KPIs. I said, the next thing we want to look at is how many qualified leads are we getting? And so what we did is we looked at the number of qualified leads that they were getting when they were spending $10,000 a month. And then we said, we're going to compare this to the number of qualified leads now that you're spending $15,000 a month. And what we realized is they weren't getting more leads. So what this tells me is we're spending more money, but we're not getting the result that we want. Like, we're not seeing more qualified leads because we're spending more money. So now we got to look a little bit more to see, okay, all right, what is going on here? What is happening here? And as we really started to look into the details, one of the things that we started to recognize is that the marketing company had changed the strategy of who they were targeting or who they were trying to reach. And when we recognized that, we said that, okay, all right, we got to make some changes in your strategy because you can't keep spending more money on marketing, but getting less results. Now, when it comes down to your marketing, there are several other KPIs that you can monitor. And what we'll do is we'll create a resource where you can go to our page and you can download a resource where it'll list out those KPIs. Plus, we're working on creating a quarterly KPI workbook where we're going to break it down department by department, listing out what are the KPIs that are relevant in that area, and also providing some explanations so you understand what these KPIs are. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to cover a couple of more. So let's look at your sales. So one of the things that I want to know about sales is I want to know what is the total number of new clients? Because if the marketing team is doing their job, they're bringing in the leads, we fixed the marketing problem. But if the sales team or the sales process is not able to convert those leads into clients, then I would say we're missing a piece of your championship team. So we want to look and see how many total new customers. And then I want to look at the conversion rate. I want to see if we take the total number of leads, let's say if we had 100 leads and only 10 of those leads actually became customers. That means you have a 10% conversion rate, meaning 1 out of 10 say yes to what you are offering. Now, you have to look at that over time to say, is that a good ratio? Now, on the surface, I would say that's probably not a good ratio. And you probably want to do some work and really look at, see, okay, all right, how can we improve our conversion ratio? Usually for a lot of law firms, what I'm seeing is their conversion ratio for a qualified lead is somewhere north of 65%. So that's 6 out of 10 say yes to what they're offering if they are a qualified lead. Now, qualified is very different from just someone who picks up the phone and calls you randomly. Qualified lead means they've gone through some type of screening process and you've identified that, yes, we can help them. And yes, we are a good option for this potential client. Now, another area I want to look at is legal operations. Now, for legal operations, we want to really dial into what does productivity look like? How productive is your legal team? Because your legal team may be working or they may be in the office 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. But what I really want to look at is I want to see how much of that time is actually spent on doing legal work that we can actually get paid for. Because if they're not doing legal work that we can actually get paid for, then it's probably not very productive time. Now, you may need some help from a CFO to break this down if your practice management tool doesn't already have productivity metrics in it. Because what you want to look at is you want to look at how much time are they spending on actual client cases, on actual legal work that the firm gets paid for, compared to how much time are you actually paying them. Now, there is a very shocking statistic when you look at this across the legal industry. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of law firms, the statistics are if a person is working an 8-hour day, the industry average says that about 2.5 hours a day are actually spent on client work, which leads you to ask the question, what are they doing with the other time? What are they doing with the other 5.5 hours in their workday? And that's only if they're working 8 hours. If they're working more than 8 hours or they're staying past like normal business hours, you do have to ask the question, what are they doing with their time and is it productive? Because when you get to the point of really measuring these types of KPIs, you can start to then go back to your team and hold them accountable to deliver, to say, hey, my expectation is that at least 4 hours out of your day is spent on actual case work. Because when you start holding your team accountable to those very clear metrics, what you will start to see is that your law firm will move more in line with how a championship team operates. Everyone on the team needs to know, here is the result I expect you to work on. I expect you to deliver on this result, because if you can deliver on this result, you can help us overall become a more championship team. And as I said, we're going to include a link to a resource where you can download what are the top KPIs that we think across all of those business areas, across your marketing, your sales, legal operations, across finance, across HR. Like that resource is going to have it all laid out and it's going to be free. So you can click on that link in the comments below and you can download that resource and start moving your law firm to more of a championship team. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Law Firm and Finance Show, where we give you great content that helps you build a more successful law firm. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on all platforms and follow us for more content.